right, good morning. Apple is down almost 8%. And if you're pulling up or looking for my previous day 15 box setup, I need you to don't even worry about it. Close it. The level means nothing today because of this gap down. Let me show you what I'm actually using today instead. What's good, YGO family? It's TJ, and welcome back to the pre-market breakdown with You Got Options. Today's different. Apple, as we see, had a huge gap down in the pre-market. We closed here, as you can see, we closed at 333.43. And then in the pre-market after earnings, we see that Apple has gapped down, and this usually happens. This is why, even though they hit, as we can see, they hit the earnings and was above. Um, who knows why it gaps down? But this is what we're looking at. This is why we playing it. Um, so the gap down from 333 close to the 307 area overnight. That's the real news driven move, not normal session. So before I show you levels, I need to explain why my go to setup is off the table and why I'm using this instead. Um, Here's the thing about previous day 15. It works because it marks the last 15 minutes of yesterday's normal trading. The price where buyers and sellers actually settled today. That level is only useful though if today's price is still somewhere near it. Today is not even close. It's down almost. I think the gap. If I'm doing the math, I ain't always the math genius. But if it's almost down 333 to about $27. So if anybody in that play saw this coming in, which I thought it would drop in, even though it hooked, I didn't. But I don't like to do swing trades. So for the swing traders who's in there, hey, that's $27. So they gonna should be up at the start of the market. So, but we'll get to that later. If I tried to trade a break and retest off the level that far from price, I'd either never get a signal or I'll get a garbage one. The box didn't fail. It's just not the right tool for a gap that size. Different situations, different framework. That's why you have to continue to learn, continue to. One thing I've learned over the years, I always have um, a different setup. I always have a way to pivot so your strategy, because the market does what the market does, but when you understand and know how to trade, you can adjust. And instead of using a PD 15, what we're going to use today is the pre-market high and pre-market low, and still use and still give you some levels. uh, what I'm using instead is the gap play. When the stock gaps like this one, this on real news, I stopped using yesterday's close and start using today's actual pre-market range. As you see here, the high and low Apple has already made since 4 a.m. The range, and you can see that if I see if I can zoom in here, that's pretty much. I'll draw the line over so you can see. And the brown, if you can see here, the brown section, if you can see it on my chart, that's the pre-market. And even now, and the pre-market is still coming down, so this is actually the low now. But I'll take it back to where it was. But in true fashion, this is showing you how the market moves so quickly. So really, right at this could drop way down before at 329, and we would have to adjust. But for the purpose of this video, I'll leave it at around 306.33. But just know that I would see where this counter was, because I don't trade the first 15 minutes anyway, so I can come back and set these, but the levels I'm giving you should still work. We might have to adjust a little bit around right at market open. Um, but I'm not guessing which one happens. I'm waiting for Apple to show me. There's two ways a gap like that this plays out: gap and go, Sellers stay in control. Apple breaks the pre-market low and keeps falling. Or gap fill. Buyers step in. Apple reclaims the pre-market high and works back up toward yesterday close, trying to close some of that gap. But we'll see. Here are the key levels. Here, I'm still using Apple's daily ATR for the targets. The pre-market highs, like I said, 313.56 pre-market low is 306.33. Uh, so the gap and go puts put market low break is 303.24, then 301.32, and then 298.23. The gap and fill, that's the gap you see here. They with the market with the levels I just called out. And as you know, my green lines means where it could bounce and come back up. And the red lines is we're saying for calls. The levels is 316.65, 318.57 if it decides to keep going, and 321.66. As you know, I don't just get in. Um, I don't just get in when it breaks. It has to prove that's what it's going to do. So I still use my breakout retest at this level or at my 8 EMA or at if it pulls back and holds at the 21. Either way, that's what I still use. It don't change the my edge and my framework. I still use the break and retest. All only thing changes the PD 15 to the pre-market high and pre-market low. Um, So, for calls, I need the Apple, like I just said, Apple to close it. Because I normally, this is what I failed to tell you in the previous. The way I get in, if you've been following me, the way I normally get in is I switch to the 2 minute, and I wait for the breakout retest there, and so I can get in. I get in here. It gives me a quicker, a better entry point. And like I said, I normally trade on the RTH, so this is what I would actually be looking at. And right now, it doesn't seem like there's anything because it hasn't updated. It hasn't updated, taking account for that drop. But that's why you go to extend it, the ETH, and that way you can see what market is actually doing. So if we leave it here, and I know I'm switching back and forth, and if anything is confusing or you can't keep up for anyone's new, truly drop me a comment and I'll work on presenting it better so it's truly understood. And I'll put all this in the comments as well, my description with all the levels and the targets. Um, but like I said, for calls, I'm looking for the breakout. I'm looking for it to come here to retest and go. Yes, we can also, and here's another thing, as we go through, we can learn how we can actually just play this range. Normally, this range right here is a no go, but this is a $7 range in here. So we definitely could get a move here. And the way you can do that, this is another time where that might take a account whereby if you do the you turn on ORB and you set you mark the high and low of the first 15-minute candle and use that, and that lets you know it could fall in between here. But I know I'm going off the range. Just let you know there's many ways to play Apple today. But I just want you to play within your strategy. Again, I'm not doing a PD 15 box today. I'm doing a pre-market high and low, but still doing my um, breakout retest for confirmation, looking at my indicators for further confirmation. Always look for volume. And no matter where I get in, I always have a stop loss. My stop loss would be on the other side of my entry. So if I'm getting in for puts, say if I was using the pre-market low, I'm using the puts for puts. My stop loss goes on the other side of this level. So probably, I mean, to really look at, depending on your risk tolerance, sometimes I would say even this is where uh, I would put my stop loss. So if it on the 2 minutes, so if it pulls back to this and broke structure going in, if I'm using this as my entry, then that's where I would get out. So my stop loss would go somewhere right here. So just for I would put it right here. So if I would change this color, of course, to like red to let me know it's just my stop loss. And sometimes I would even set an alert to let me know if I'm not looking. I get alert saying, "Hey, stop loss hit," and then that lets me know that I need to be out. And sometimes I use the automate this, but again, in future videos we can show you that. I just want to get this in real quick and get you out of here. So today is different, but the process is an Apple gapped hard on earnings. Previous day 15 doesn't apply, so I rebuilt the box around today's actual pre-market range. Below 306.33, I'm watching gap and go puts. Above 313.56, I'm watching gap fill calls. If this helped, follow, like, subscribe, share this with a trader who needs a real plan on a day like this. This is you got options where we study the levels, wait for agreement, trade with discipline. I talk to you on the next one. Y'all have a great trading day. God bless.